Hey there, Coach Patrick here, and I am here with one of my amazing clients, Jeffrey St. Laurent. Welcome, Jeff.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to have you here. And before we dive in, my name is Patrick Lyden, also known as Coach Patrick, and I help midlife adults burn body fat, build muscle, and get back to looking and feeling their absolute best again so they can crush their second half of life. I do that mainly through my 12-week Midlife Makeover Program, which is what Jeff just finished, and he absolutely crushed it. So I wanted to bring him on here to share his story and inspire others just like him and I. We're both the same age, I think. We're other midlife guys. And
We are midlife.
yes, we are. So instead of midlife crisis, we went with the midlife makeover instead, and here we are. So, but Jeff, let's get it started, man. With tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you're from, anything else you want to share. Just
Yeah, I just turned 49 during the program, actually. And I'm from Massachusetts, been here pretty much my whole life. And I actually started off as a fitness professional, believe it or not. And then transitioned from there, from professionally into actually coaching, life coaching, business coaching. And then been in it 21 years, have my own business. So very entrepreneurial in that sense, do real estate as well. I'm a father. My 19-year-old who
crazy,
part of
crazy.
the motivation of this whole thing too is just seeing how fit and healthy he is, etc. Just got married as well, so just yeah, lead a very full life, and just enjoying everything that I do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. And I've known you for a while. And
Yes.
let's take me through let's say the last let's say 3 4 months ago. Like where were you health wise, fitness wise before you started the program?
Yeah, so like, being in the fitness industry and being as active as I've been, through college, I discovered exercise and fitness, and transformed myself through there. And then obviously that brought me into the fitness industry. And so really the majority of my life, since college, I've been super fit, super healthy, if I could say that, right? And then, as with anybody, as we get older, with injuries, with time, with busyness, and just life stuff that goes on, getting out of the fitness industry where now it's not my job to be a physical role model anymore. So I don't have those, every month or so, or getting on stage, teaching, etc. I don't have that almost not a requirement, but it's just part of the job, if you will. I just got to a point where I was just less than. I was good, but I wasn't great. And we all know that good is the enemy of great. And so I think for a while, after a couple knee surgeries, and then last year I had my shoulder surgery. I was always, I felt like on the cusp of greatness, like I was 15, 20 pounds away from being in phenomenal shape. I've been working out this whole time, but my nutrition was the thing that really just it just wasn't there. And it's not, doesn't mean I was eating crappy all the time at all. I mean, I definitely have my moments, absolutely, like anybody, but it was just lack of protein, lack of consistency. I'd have breakfast after my workout and, 8 hours later I'd be eating food. So it just, there's really a lot of inconsistencies, and I couldn't just rest on being 20 anymore, or even 30, right? Like I said, now I was in my 40s and I'm 49, and so it wasn't just like, oh, I change one thing and then 2 weeks later I'm 5 pounds lighter and just in phenomenal shape again. It just wasn't like that. So I just had been feeling less than, and I knew there was more, and closing in on 50 was a big thing for me because uh, my son, who's super fit now, like he takes his shirt off and it's holy crap. Like I see him and I see myself, X amount of years ago. And it's not like I don't have that body right now either. It was just lined with, 15, 20 pounds of fat, right? And so there was part of a vision that I had, and I told you this, a vision I had that when I turned 50, I would be in that phenomenal great shape again. And I could take a flexing picture with my son side by side and go, here's 50 and 30, sorry, 50 and 20, 30 years apart. And like to me, that vision was really cool because I want to inspire him. I want to inspire myself. And if that inspires anyone else, then fantastic. But more for myself, And then as I was coming on to my 49th birthday, I said to myself, why am I waiting until 50? Like, why can't I do that now? What if for my 49th birthday, I could take a picture with my son and be in that phenomenal shape? And kind of that was the impetus to this program where you're launching this. And I'm like, huh, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. I think it's interesting because you're a fitness professional, or you were a fitness professional for years, right? And I've been saying about 20 years in the fitness industry. And uh it's listening to your story, I think about like a lot of the clients that I've worked with, I'm sure you can this will connect with you too, is that in your 20s, it's like you're healthy, you're fit, you're athletic, right? Maybe teens, 20s, and then life happens, right? Life happens to all of us. Even as fitness professionals, life happens, right? You have kids, you get married, you have a business, or you start working, and like life gets busy. And your health and fitness, and I know this with my clients that I've worked with, is like the health and fitness takes the back burner. Nutrition takes the back burner. And that's when the weight starts to creep on. And then over the years, like metabolism changes or body changes, especially at 49. Once you break 40, it's like your body changes a lot, right? And um, even with fitness professionals, knowing what we know, it happens to everyone, and unless you're doing the things that like we did in this program, unless you're doing these things, like it's gonna creep on, the weight's gonna keep piling on year after year, and until you do something about it, which is what you did. And you weren't, you like you said, you were 15 to 20 pounds of extra body fat that you wanted to get rid of. And some people I think struggle with 50 to 100 pounds. But life does happen. I guess my message here is like life happens to everyone, even a fitness professional, former, in myself. Like that was my kind of thing. I struggled with, life happened and caught up to you and stuff. And before you know it, you're like, wow, you're in your mid 40s or late 40s, and you're like, I'm out of shape or not what I used to be. And you feel less than, and you're like, I want to get to be more. And I think that's where I can definitely relate to your story. Hopefully, others listening to this can too. But so, what was your pain point? Like, what was the thing that you were most frustrated with leading up to starting this program?
I think I was most frustrated with my yo-yoing,
Yeah,
right? It's just like, I'm gonna focus, I'm gonna do this, and I get a week or 2 weeks in, really, that's as far as I would ever get. Like I'd have a good week. And really, from what I learned and did with the program, looking back on it, it wasn't even really a good week. It was more like starving myself.
yeah,
Right. But whatever. It was a good week because I'm consuming less calories than I'm using, and therefore I'm dropping weight. But I'm also burning my muscle along with the fat, and it's really not a healthy thing anyways. But it was never a sustainable thing because, and I'd see some results and I'd feel a little better. I could feel like, oh yeah, I dropped a few pounds. But like, and next thing you know, a month later, it's just like, oh, I'm starting to eat again. I'm starting to, splurge more, rationalize. And here I am a month later. Any results that I've gotten was just obliterated. And I
yeah,
just never had a string of like doing it for a longer period of time. I was missing accountability. I was missing education. Even as a fitness professional, I never claimed to know it all. I knew some things. I knew of the things that some of the things that we learned, but how to put it all together for myself, I didn't know how to do that because I had never done it. And so I didn't have all the pieces there for my recipe for success. And I think that's where I don't know if even know if I was frustrated, but I was just complacent. And I said, at what point do I become phenomenal again? At what point do I become a role model again? And um, and I think that's where it was just the timing of it all for me on this.
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I love the story of like I've seen the picture of you and your son. And I've seen the picture of you actually, you and your brother. Um,
Yeah.
from I don't even know what year it was, but you were like
Oh yeah.
ripped, dude. And Steve was too, your brother. And you told me about that, you wanted to get to the point where you're like, I'm shredded again and I'm fit again, and I can stand next to my son and like take a flexing picture with him and feel proud of your body and stuff. And
Yeah.
but so yeah, I think I remember having that conversation with you about like that was your motivation for change. And that was that the spark that made it like, hey, I'm ready for this, to do this, to commit to it and do the program?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I was going to be turning 49, and then I had that 50-year goal.
Yeah.
I didn't, and then when was I going to start this goal for 50, right?
Right.
So, and then the time, when this came about, it's just like, what if I can do this at 40, 49? So what if my 49th year, I can go into that year just really feeling like my best. And it's not like, oh, it's not about taking a shirtless picture of my son necessarily, right? But it's just feeling confident about myself.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I just got married and my wife and I we got a lake house, and this has been like a lifetime dream for both of us. Even when we met each other 8 years ago, we both found out we both wanted to live on a lake and be on a boat. And it's just like, so I'm gonna go out on my boat and I'm embarrassed to take my shirt off. I'm embarrassed to just enjoy, you know what I mean? Just life. And so a lot of it was just like it was my personal like I know I'm better than I am right now.
Yeah.
And it's for myself to say like live up to your own potential.
Yeah.
Like it's for nobody else at the end of the day, for myself to say like you're better than you are and you're doing the work. I was doing the workouts. It's not like all this time, even through injuries and everything like that. Even my shoulder surgery last year hasn't even been a year yet. Like I did all the rehab. I'm showing up 4 to 6 days a week doing workouts. But it's just like you cannot. This is from you. You cannot train a bad diet.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what age you're at. Well,
Yeah.
maybe
So true. Yeah, no, that's so true. Although I do remember in our 20s, like I think we could out train a bad diet.
in your 20s you can. My son's doing it now at 19. Like the Oreos and crap that he eats and the way he looks, it's like, yeah,
Yeah, you can. Oh, but
ain't gonna
once
last
I tell you,
forever.
once you hit 30, 30 is really the turning point. But when you can't out train a bad diet. Few people
Yeah.
can, but not most people can. But anyway, so you get into the program, we get started. What
Yeah.
was your experience from the beginning? Like where were you at?
Yeah. So I went into it excited. And I was actually at my parents' place in Florida. We took my pictures, and I was like embarrassed to take my own pictures, just because I was just like. But also I was excited because I'm like if I'm really gonna do this, you know, the worse I look, I guess the better because it's like that's the reality. But that's how I felt,
Yeah.
and even now when I look at that person, I'm like I remember how that person felt. And so, but the first month, I'd say I was still coasting on what I had already done. Even though you had all of the metrics there and the workouts and the nutrition, like right at my fingertips, I was still coasting on what I had always done, just kind of like eating less and still just doing my workouts. And really, and you saw it with my weight. I started off at 195. I think in the first week or two, I dropped a couple pounds, but like really that first month, I was still at 193
Yeah.
after the first month. But I could feel a change. I could feel like I had dropped some weight, but in my head, I was just saying like, oh, I'm gaining muscle and I'm dropping fat. And so my body weight's staying the same. That was the story I was telling myself, which may have been very true in some ways. It doesn't mean that was inaccurate. It just means though I was still telling myself that story. I wasn't tracking my nutrition, and I was doing the workouts, but also it was still tough at that time because my shoulder, it's still even a little bit better now, but there's still certain like even push-ups I couldn't do push-ups from my surgery. So there's certain movements I couldn't do and I had to modify. So I was training within my capabilities and also training within like the mindset of like I'm not trying to be a hero here. And I've some things that have derailed me in the past was when I started training, is I'd hurt myself. And so next thing you know, I've hurt myself, F it. I start eating poorly again, and any results I'd get, 2 months later are just, gone again.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah. We
just,
talked we talked about it in the group because we had a group of I think 7 of us in that group. I was the eighth one, but like we talked about that because I think as guys, like we think back of when we were in our 20s and we're like, oh yeah, man, you still feel like you're in your 20s, right? And you're training and you're like, oh, I feel good, so I push harder. And that's when it's like in your 40s, it's like you got to kind of put the brakes on a little bit and be a little bit smarter with your training to prevent injury because the last thing you want is an injury because that'll kind of does sometimes derail you. There's workarounds and stuff, and I think some of the
Mhm.
guys had little things, tweaks here and there, that old injuries that popped up that like they worked through and they moved on and they learned how to deal with that and got great results still. But so you had the training down, right? But the nutrition was kind of, you were coasting for the first month. And
Yeah.
then what was it? Because I remember we had a conversation one of the meetings. It was, I don't even know if it was outside the meeting or whatnot, but
Well, it was first in the group, and
yeah,
you had said like you guys I think several other guys were kind of experiencing the same thing, and you kept saying, "Are you tracking? Are you tracking?" And the answer was a very vague for most of us, including myself, was just like I was either like no, or I actually had the printout that you gave us.
yeah,
Right? There's a printout, which is like one level of like writing everything down, and then there's the actual like app, like on the phone tracking, like hardcore, like I would say hardcore. It's just like it's black and white. It is what it is. And so and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And you're like, listen, guys, if you really want to get great results, you've got to start tracking your stuff. And so then I went onto the app, blah blah blah, and then I was just like, I was kept lying to myself. I just kept feeding myself oh, I don't need this app. Like I don't want to be that detailed. And then I subscribed to there was like a 30-day trial to the premium version, and then it's like, I don't want another monthly subscription. It's like, what is it, $7 a month? It's like whatever, but like still, I was just like, oh, I don't need to pay another monthly fee for something oh, I could do this myself. And we had a one-on-one call like this. It's great because you're always available for any of us through the whole program. We have all like the weekly calls, but then it's just like, guys, if you need to have a conversation. So that was really helpful. So we had a one-on-one conversation. I think we were on for almost an hour. And I was still even resistant with you, and you were great because you weren't like pushing anything on me. You're like, all right, well, what can I do to help you with this? Like, where are you willing to go? Like, you asked me some great questions, and like I was kind of like hearing myself be just stupid out loud. Like, really, you're one of those guys? Because like I coach people all the time, and I don't judge people, and I could tell I didn't feel judged. You were just like letting me be where I was at. But also, I knew I could see that you were seeing where I was falling short, but you just let me be where I was at. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I'm going to do this. So I committed to tracking on the app. And I think like a week in, the next week, what happened to my weight? Like I had to go back to the weight. I went from 193 to 190, and then a week later, I was like, oh, this is awesome.
yeah.
And if you look at my weight graph, even through till today, it's a straight line down.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
funny, like looking at your chart. I can't share it right now, but like your chart was kind of like flat for the first month, maybe a little down, right? And then all of a sudden, as soon as you start tracking, and you just went straight down. Like not straight down, but like your slope went down, right? And you're
yeah.
still losing today, but like but yeah, I know we talked a little bit about the mindset piece too of, and you had said it where you're like, well, in order for me to grow and do things differently and get different results, like I have to think differently and challenge myself and get uncomfortable, right? And you, I think tracking was your block where you're like, I'm resistant to this idea of tracking, and it was like blocking you, blocking, blocking, and then finally like, wait a minute, like maybe I just need to think differently, and like, how do I become, how do I learn how to track? And then we did like some time and over talking about My Fitness Pal and like training you how to use that app and make it as simple as possible. And then yeah, once you started doing that, man, you just started losing, which was great.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
it's true. Like, and that's the thing is like you could hear it in the group with myself, with some of the other guys when we'd show up to the call and we'd say these things. And so the person that I am today, like the person that I am today versus 12, 13 weeks ago now when we started this program, it's the core of me is the same, but I'm a different person in terms of the way I think about this.
yeah,
Right? I've become somebody different, and that's how I've gotten and created the results that I have right now. And that's through understanding some of the tools, but the tools were available on day one that you gave us. Like there's nothing different about it. But had I not changed the way I was looking at everything, the things I was telling myself, my philosophy, and the mindset and my perspective on things, I'd still be the same. Would I be a little bit lighter than where I started? I started at 195. I'm like 178, just under 178 now. But I might be in the 180 somewhere. It doesn't mean I wouldn't be better than where I was, but the difference was program stops. I'm like going hard still.
yeah,
Like I'm just as excited about tracking my nutrition now as I was when I started it. And I feel like I have a process now, but it was is how I see it and how I'm viewing everything that makes the difference from the sustainability standpoint. Because the tools were always there and they'll always be there. It's just how I choose to see them and utilize them, my
Yeah.
perspective on them.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the cool thing is like it's been a week, right? Like since we ended or almost a week. But yeah, seeing the guys like continue. I had a text this morning from Ben. Ben was like,
Yeah.
lost 2 more pounds. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, that is so cool. Like Ben is like, he's dialed in, he understands what he needs to do now, and like has the system, has the tools, understands it. And like, dude, just keep going, and that's awesome. And I think you're that same category of like, you know what to do now, you're thinking about it the right way, and you're in a really, really good place. You touched upon your results, like you started at 195, you lost 16 pounds, 17 pounds, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Um, you're at 178, I think. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
178 as of 2 days ago, and
Yeah.
I've teetered a couple times in the 177 point high
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
20 or so, so right
And
around
that's
there.
great. Once you get your guardrails of like, hey, like I feel good, I look good, I'm at my goals. Like you have like a 5 pound, like,
Mm.
I'm gonna fluctuate, right? That's perfectly normal. But so what other results? Like you talked about a scale victory, which is your weight loss. Any other non-scale victories? Something that we talk about throughout the program is like we really want to focus on non-scale victories because when we focus on
Yeah.
the small wins week to week, not just the weight, but the small wins of like how we feel about it, like how we feel about ourselves, our bodies, and our how we're like experiencing life. When we focus on those things, we get more of those things. So non-scale victories, like where are you at now, and if you could share some.
Yeah, I think it's all non-scale victories because like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the scale says,
Yeah,
like at all for any of us. It's how we feel, how we operate on a day-to-day basis. I think I would say the biggest ones is just the system I have and the structure I have. And I've done a lot of things over the years to try things out and even some stuff with you in the past too,
yeah,
different methodologies of just tracking because at the end of the day, if we don't track something, we don't know actually what's happening. Like if you don't track your finances, you can guess to see what's happening, but you don't actually know what's happening. Just same was with your calories, just the same as with fill in the blank, right?
yeah,
So the system I have, like the app that I have, MyFitnessPal, and knowing how to use that, having everything logged in there, knowing where my macros need to be, carbs, fats, proteins, calories, even cholesterol, fats, sodium, things like that, that it's all dialed in there because you gave us where we need to be when we're in that releasing weight stage. And then we get to I'm closing in probably on my maintenance stage, probably I think probably within about like maybe 3 to 5 pounds at the most, I'm guessing.
yeah,
Totally guess what's my maintenance look like. But then now, so then I have those numbers. And then I have now, because I'm doing it now for 12 weeks, well, not, I've been in it 12 weeks, but probably like 8 weeks of tracking.
yeah,
Now I know the meals, and I'm still even refining that as I'm going along, but I know where they need to be, and I have a system of like every day towards, like 2/3 of the day through, I'm always looking at where are my calories left for the day, where are where are my macros, more importantly, where's my protein, because that's always like the biggest thing that you taught us is the protein piece. And then it's just like I have a plan every day. I have a plan towards the end of the day where I'm going to be. And so that's my biggest win is just knowing how I can maintain this because there's something there. And even like cheese. Like I didn't have a lot of cheese. I love cheese, but like I didn't have a lot of cheese at all through the program. But even I'm like, oh, we have some shredded cheese. And when you measure stuff out, it's just like, what's 28 grams of shredded cheese? And I put in on my scale 28 grams. I'm like, oh, it was actually a little more than I thought it was. But still, in the past, I would just stuff 28 grams of cheese in my mouth
by the
while
bite
I'm
size. Yeah,
making
yeah,
the sandwich. Never mind, like, oh, that's 28 grams. Like, that's enough. And the great thing about the tracking is, like, before I eat something, I can input it to see what that's going to do. Right? So last night, like it was like even 9:30 and I had room and I needed some more protein and some calories and I was slightly hungry. And I'm like, all right, what if I did 3 eggs and some egg whites and I put it all in? And what's that going to do to my fats and my proteins and my carbs and stuff like that? And so, excuse me, I put it in and it like brought me to the perfect amount, and I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And so, and I ate it, and I knew like that's exactly what I needed to finish off my day nutritionally, and I was satisfied and I was happy.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
So
it's great. Like once you have a tool and system and you understand it, like that's the thing with tracking is you can make those tricks of the trade, right? To make it as easy as possible. But once you learn it, it's like anything. Once you learn how to do it, it gets really easy to do. And it also is super educational. It teaches you a lot about the foods that you eat and how it impacts your health and your body. And if you want to lose weight, like really this program clearly, spells out like, here are my targets, here's what I need to hit each day, here's how to get there. And once you learn all that, it's amazing like what you can do. And I feel like you're a walking testament to that. What Tell me, along your journey, it was a 12-week program. What was your number one challenge throughout your 12 weeks? And the second half of that is, how did you overcome it?
yeah, so my number one challenge actually is I got sick, and you can probably still hear I'm a little bit as I start to cough. Um, and it's weird because it's like summer now, and it's like I didn't get sick all winter, and like right, towards the last month really, I got sick, I had a sore throat, I got nasally, and just no energy, and so that was my challenge because in the past, anytime I started to get any momentum, even if it wasn't doing it. It definitely wasn't doing it the way I'm doing it now, tracking and the workouts and having the structure. But whatever that old version of me getting progress was, and I made progress, short-term progress, but I was derailed by things like injuries, sickness, anything like that, right? Those are the two main things, either injured or sick. And then just things went out the window. And so this time, I think my biggest challenge was like, okay, I'm sick. And it's like I want to, and I was actually fired up to work out, and I was creating great momentum. But I tried working out, but it's just like this is dumb. Like I feel like crap, and I'm not getting anywhere. Probably doing myself worse. But I kept my nutrition, and each week I showed up. I'd get on the scale, zero workout. 2 pounds lighter. I'm like, huh, okay. And I felt like crap too. Like, all right, I'm just gonna keep doing this. And a week later, still feel like crap. 2 pounds later. Like, all right. And then I'm like, okay, why am I still sick? Because it's 2 weeks, because it never usually lasts this long. It was almost just like the universe put it there for me to just be like, no, we're going to keep you sick longer than you've ever been sick before. Because I'm literally in my third week. And this week I started working out again, which is great. But it's hard for me to breathe, nasally, etc. But got on the scale again, I think it was a pound and a half lighter this week, right? And it's just like, all right. So like how I overcame it was the structure and it's just staying with the structure in the system. That's it. It's
Yeah.
just I relied on the tools that were presented to me through the program that you gave us. And I relied on the habits that I had started to form and create, and just doing what I knew would work. And it's kept me on. So now as I emerge from the sickness, right? Like I had my third workout this morning, and I still feel like my energy's not all there, but I'm training again. I'm still eating well. Like I'm 4 or 5 pounds lighter than when I got sick, and I'm just as energized. And as over the next week, as my body regains its full strength and all that other stuff back, I'm gonna be another pound and a half lighter, and I'm just like even more dialed in,
Yeah.
And when I look in the mirror, I'm lean, I'm fit, I'm happy with myself. I'm proud of myself for staying on track. So all those things feed into that momentum. And as opposed to now I'm 3 weeks back eating crappy again. And maybe I'm not where I was when I started the program at 195 and just, everything went out the window. But I'm just so that's what I did. That
Yeah.
was my biggest challenge and how I overcame it, was just staying with the system. And that gave me the belief and the knowledge that like I can do this. I can keep this going.
Yeah, this is the longest, couple things here to touch upon. This is the longest. I've done multiple programs with you over the years, different nutrition plans and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the longest I've seen you. Like this was 12 weeks long, and you're on week 13. And you've done awesome, man. This is the longest I've seen you consistent. You showed up to the weekly check-ins. and you participated. You were like reporting in. You were sharing where you were at, your results, and like what you're doing. And yeah, this is the longest I've seen you stick with stuff, which is awesome. Um, that number two is the the sickness that you have. Emma had it too. So Emma's been
Oh,
sick for like she got sick, got a cold, like a late spring, early summer cold, in like literally 3 weeks she was like
oh,
death. And but and then now my third thing here is this is what happens with most people, right? Is they're going along and an obstacle gets in their way. For you, it was getting sick. And they then everything else goes off track, right? You kept nutrition on track. Your workouts, you're like, dude, I'm just gonna rest. I'm gonna not push my body. And I think in your 20s, like you probably could have still worked out. You probably would have still worked out even when you were sick. When you're in your 40s, late 40s, like, dude, your body needs recovery as much as it needs activity and exercise. So for you to take a little bit of time off, let your body recuperate and heal was the right call. But you didn't, the best analogy here is like, when you get a flat tire and you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to like change your body and you get a flat tire, or, in this case, you're driving down the road, you get a flat tire. You don't get out and slash the other three tires. But I think that's what most people do, is that they have an obstacle, they get a flat tire, and or they fall off they get sick, and that's their obstacle. So they're like, oh, screw it, I'm gonna throw my nutrition out the window and my sleep out the window, and I'm gonna not be as active or drink as much water. And then they regress, they go all the way back to where they started, and then they get to that pain point again of like, I'm sick of being in my body, I need to change, and then they start all over again. But I think the key is that when you have an obstacle, you get sick, you get an injury, you get something, you can still stay on track. You can still do a lot of stuff. And that's what you did that, man. And that's why you saw the results that you saw, and you're at where you're at because you didn't let that derail you. And that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, what I guess we went through your number one challenge. Anything else that you'd want to go over about the program? Any other experiences that you've had you want to share?
Yeah, I just say like the the program is great because like you're great, number one.
Thanks.
Um, and no, I mean, you've been my friend for a long time, right? I've known you for a while, but you really know your stuff. Like you really know your stuff. I've always admired that about you. Like you study things, like you understand, but you're very detailed and methodical about things. And like, your microbiology background, like anytime we would play a game like chess or like you're very strategic about things. And even when we've trained together on cycling and stuff like that, you map things out, and so I saw a lot of that in this program, and when you broke things down with some of the webinars you did for us, and for the people going through the programs of how to use MyFitnessPal, like that was a great, I don't call it webinar or educational thing where you walked us through like how to use that. And it's just like you broke everything down so simply of how to figure this out for yourself. Because once you come up with a plan, once we came up with a plan for ourselves, like with our meals that met our macronutrient requirements for each day, and how we plug it into here and how it becomes easier and easier to do it, um, it actually becomes simple, and it actually can become fun. Doesn't mean it'll be fun for everybody, but I found it fun. Um, but I found that the program really like it's if you follow the program, like even 50, 60%, you're coming out 12 weeks, like in way beyond your wildest dreams. Like as much as I followed like everything, I can look at this and go like, I still probably followed everything probably like 65, 70%, right? I don't think anyone was 100%, but you can't be 100%. That's not even the objective of it, right? With the workouts and things like that. Um, but everything's there. Like everything's there. It's only a matter of like, will you follow it? How will you follow it? Will you ask for help along the way? There's plenty of accountability there. So the only reason why it's not working is because the person's not working and they're not showing up on a weekly basis, and they're not being held accountable. But there's so much accountability, within the group too, that it's almost like it's impossible for you to fail. And you don't even really even need motivation, because to me, like motivation is like spray paint on rust. It doesn't last very long. It's just a matter of like it's being disciplined enough to just do the work. It's just showing up every day and doing the work. And if you can do that just enough, like a couple weeks, you're gonna start to feel like even probably week two for everybody. Like everyone's sore. Everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so weak, lifting weights and doing all this stuff. And it's just like I'm eating anything and I'm not seeing much. You're not feeling better yet. But once you get past like week two, then week three, then it's just like then you get some feedback from your body and then you get a little bit of momentum. Then things start to become easier. But everything's so laid out for you and it's actually as in depth as the program is in terms of what you learn and the tracking and stuff like that, which probably from a person listening in might like, oh, it might sound daunting sometimes. It's actually not at all. Like you made everything so simple for us. And like with the app and everything, like I've I've been a fitness professional. I've done this with clients before, with personal training clients. I didn't have these tools back then. To say it back then, but it was back then. Like there weren't apps like this where you can scan a barcode and it just boom, everything's there and you just hit a button. It's just so stupid simple. And that's the thing. And it actually gets simpler as you do it. So I think the biggest thing is just like you don't even have to be motivated. Is all of you to is what do you want? And then show up, learn it. Just like you'd learn how to do anything. It's like I got my phone on me, I got my water by me. It's just a part of my life. And so it's like it's just mark my words, like let's do this follow up a year from now when I'm turning 50.
Yeah.
We'll do this for then and now for your groups to show
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
long-term success about this because it's it's simple. The tools are all there. And I appreciate what you bring to the table because you show up, you let people be where they're at, but you also find your ways where you're like you call us out on our crap when needed, but in a somewhat gentle way. So the velvet hammer,
Most of
so
the
to
time.
speak.
Most of the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like touching upon a couple of things you said. Like it's like 2 weeks. Like the first 2 weeks of learning anything new is always like, it can be, learning anything new, right? Like you're learning a new language or something, and it's like the first 2 weeks, it's like learning a foreign language. So for some people, depending on where you're starting from, it can be like, all right, I gotta just get through the first 2 weeks of like learn some new material, learn how to implement this system. But even still, it's not like you're spending 4 hours a day on this, right? It was a 40-minute workout. And even the tracking, I think gets really simple once you learn it. And but like anything, if you want to change your body, you got to put some time in. You got to do the work, and you got to show up for yourself each day, and be in value your health, and value yourself enough, and like care about yourself, have enough self-love to be like, hey, I deserve more out of my life. I deserve more for my body. I deserve to like show up for myself every day and do the work. And when you do that, like you can get some amazing results. I think you're one of the 7 guys, but every single guy saw some great results.
Oh yeah.
And it was a pretty cool experience to have you in it and be a part of it. So thanks, man. Well, I got one last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. What would you say to someone else, like someone else thinking about doing this program? Like, what would you say to them if you met them on the side of the road or in an elevator or something like that?
Let's just say how important is whatever your health goals are to you, and if it's that important for you, why is now the right time? And if they're feeling it and they're ready to commit, it's just a matter of showing up, right? It's just there's no reason big enough why someone wouldn't do this. Like, all the money, all the time, all the whatever, because you're collapsing your results. And like based on what I share with you, I was looking at from when I turned 50 years old. So like I could have been in the same mentality for the next year and a half till I turned 50. Well, now it's a year, but just or a year and a quarter, whatever it is, right? So I essentially collapsed that timeline of my future self at 50, and I've become that now. So, and I've created almost a year and a half worth of results in 12 weeks by changing the way I think,
Love it. Yeah.
right? That's the reality of it because I was going to be mediocre for another year, 12 weeks ago. And then now I'm closing in on my 50th birthday. and I'm gonna do whatever I was gonna do, and then probably rationalize myself and never told anyone that goal and still be mediocre at 50. That's the reality of what was gonna happen.
What it would turn
So
into is 51. It would be like, all right, well, all right, 50 wasn't it. It's going to be 51.
yeah.
It's going to be
So
52.
that's what I tell someone is just like, listen, I don't care if you don't do this program. Patrick, I don't speak for you, right? But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter to him whether you do it or not. Of course, he wants you to do it if you want to do it, because like you're saying, like you want people who want to do this,
Yeah, I want people that put
right?
it, that are ready for change and want to put in the work because
Yeah,
this collapses. Like I love your phrase of like collapsing the timeline into 12 weeks. Like people I know have spent years trying to change
years.
their body, years, if not even decades. And literally, if they just do this for 12 weeks, like trust the process, this works, trust it, do it for 12 weeks, you'll be amazed at your results.
That's
I
it.
love that.
So are you ready to put your excuses and your BS aside? That's the reality of it. And be open to changing how you look at your whole world. Because also, like for people that change represents change, which what that means is like that someone now transforms their body and they look different, they feel different. Well, that represents change for everybody else in their world, their spouse, their family, etc. And maybe their spouse is overweight too. And all of a sudden, my spouse is, let's say, 50 pounds overweight and I'm 50 pounds overweight. And now I'm focused, but what does that mean now for her or for him, depending on where you're at? And how does that impact them? And how do they feel about things? And how does that environment start to change? And what conflict does that create? Right? So these are all the things that hold people back. But now it's just a matter of like focusing on like what do I want for myself? And am I willing to become a different person that creates the types of results that I want? Because that's really it. The person that we are today is the person that's creating the results that we have.
Yeah.
So the person that's creating the results we want, that's a different person. Like I was not able to create the results that I'm creating today with the Jeff I was 12 weeks ago.
Yeah. So true. So
That's
true.
the fact.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you and I'm proud of you for what you've done over the last 12, 13 weeks. And I look forward to sharing this story with the world and hopefully inspiring some other people through your experiences. But man, you did awesome. Super proud of you as your coach. But we'll catch up soon, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.